Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to be stepping into a pretty intense cybersecurity war game.
Oh, yeah.
And our battlefield is
Okay.
the digital world. And you and I,
Interesting.
we're about to get briefed on the latest cybercrime trends. But not by your typical analysts.
Right.
No, this intel is coming straight from cutting-edge AI. Like, think about it.
Whoa.
AI crunching data from global heavy hitters like Europol,
I see.
the World Economic Forum, government reports, even top-secret think tanks.
Wow, that's a lot of information.
Yeah.
So what's really fascinating to me is the sheer scale of the information that we're dealing with here. Imagine having a bird's eye view of the entire global cyber landscape,
Yeah?
seeing patterns and connections that would be almost impossible for humans to spot on their own.
Okay, so we've got AI analysts combing through mountains of data. That's got to be a ton of work.
Yeah.
What's the most alarming red flag that they're raising?
Well, one thing that immediately jumps out is the growing role of AI in cybercrime.
Okay.
On both sides of the fence.
Really?
It's a double-edged sword.
Oh, wow.
It amplifies both the attacks and the defenses.
So it's like AI is fueling an arms race in the cyber world.
Precisely. For example,
Yeah.
think about phishing scams.
Yeah.
The ones that trick people into giving up sensitive information.
Mm-hmm.
AI-powered deepfakes can now mimic voices and videos so convincingly
Yeah.
that it's almost impossible to tell what's real and what's fake.
Wow. So you could get a call from what sounds exactly like your boss asking for confidential data,
Yeah.
and it could all be a sophisticated AI scam.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
It is a game changer. And it's not just deepfakes.
Right.
AI is being used to create highly targeted phishing campaigns,
Uh-huh.
develop new strains of malware, and even automate cyber attacks.
So the bad guys are using AI to up their game.
Yes.
Okay, so how about the good guys? How are cybersecurity professionals using AI to fight back?
Well, AI is becoming absolutely essential for threat detection and analysis.
Okay.
Imagine an AI system that can sift through millions of data points in real time, identifying subtle patterns and anomalies that indicate an attack is underway.
Wow, that's incredible. So it's like having an AI guardian constantly watching over your network,
Yes,
spotting threats before they can even cause any serious damage.
exactly. AI can also help automate incident response,
Oh,
freeing up human analysts to focus on more complex and critical tasks.
okay. So AI is becoming a crucial tool in the fight against cybercrime.
Right.
But there's also a darker side to this story, right? The reports mention something called an authoritarian axis in cyberspace.
Yes, this is another trend that
Right.
AI has helped uncover.
Mhm.
It seems that China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea are deepening their cooperation in cyberspace,
Oh.
particularly in supporting Russia's ongoing conflicts.
Wait, so these countries are teaming up in the digital world too. How does that connect to cybercrime?
Well, it's a complex web, but the implications are significant. Think about it.
Okay.
North Korea supplying artillery shells in exchange for Russian military technology, Iran providing drones.
Yeah.
This interconnectedness.
It creates new challenges, particularly in tracking cybercrime activities and attributing attacks.
Oh, so it's getting harder to tell who's behind these attacks.
Right.
And that makes it more difficult to hold them accountable.
Exactly. And China seems to be at the center of this authoritarian axis, providing economic and political support.
So we've got AI fueling an arms race in the cyber world.
Yeah.
We've got powerful states forming alliances in cyberspace.
Uh-huh.
It sounds like the stakes are getting higher than ever before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this leads us to another critical trend,
Okay.
the widening cybersecurity gap.
You mean the difference between those who are well protected and those who are vulnerable?
Precisely. The World Economic Forum report calls it cyber inequity.
Okay.
It's not just about nations anymore.
Right.
It's about organizations within those nations having vastly different levels of protection.
So even if you work for a company with top-notch security, you could still be at risk if your partners or suppliers are less prepared. Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about a sophisticated ransomware attack crippling a key supplier in a global supply chain.
Oh, no.
The disruption could cascade through entire industries, like dominoes falling one after another.
Okay, so we've got increasingly sophisticated cybercriminals,
Mhm.
potentially state-backed,
Yeah,
using AI as a weapon.
right.
We have a widening cybersecurity gap, creating vulnerabilities across entire ecosystems. This is starting to feel a little overwhelming. What can we even do about this?
Or where there's hope. Our AI analysts have also uncovered some potential solutions.
Okay.
The first is collaboration.
Okay.
Breaking down silos and sharing information about threats, vulnerabilities, and best practices.
So it's about governments, private organizations, and international bodies all working together.
Exactly. We need everyone on the same page,
Yeah.
pooling their resources and expertise to combat these global threats.
It also sounds like we need stronger regulations, especially with AI becoming such a powerful tool for both sides.
Absolutely. Many experts are calling for stricter guidelines on the development and use of AI, particularly for applications that could be easily exploited by criminals.
Wouldn't that stifle innovation? I mean, AI has the potential to do so much good in the world.
That's a valid concern, and it's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
We need regulations that promote responsible AI development while still allowing for innovation to flourish.
Okay, so it's like finding the sweet spot between harnessing the power of AI while also preventing it from falling into the wrong hands.
Precisely. It's about guiding the development and use of AI in a way that benefits humanity as a whole, not just a select few.
So collaboration and regulation are key. What else can we do to address these challenges?
Another critical area is education.
Yeah.
We need to empower individuals and organizations to understand the risks, identify potential threats, and take proactive steps to protect themselves.
So it's about raising awareness and equipping people with the knowledge and tools they need to stay safe online.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture of cybersecurity awareness where everyone understands their role in building a more resilient digital world.
This has been a whirlwind tour of the cybercrime landscape.
It has.
It's clear that we're facing a complex and rapidly evolving threat environment, but there's also a sense of hope, a belief that we can rise to the challenge if we work together and harness the power of innovation.
I agree. This deep dive has given us a glimpse into the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. Now let's shift gears and focus on a region that's become a hotbed for cybercrime, Southeast Asia.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's going on in Southeast Asia that's caught the attention of our AI analysts?
Well, the reports are pointing to it as a major hub for scams and cybercriminal activities, with a complex mix of factors at play. We'll dig deeper into that after the break.
Sounds like we're about to enter a whole new battleground in this cyber war. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back.
All right. Welcome back to our AI-powered cybersecurity briefing. Before the break, we were talking about how crucial collaboration and regulation are in this ever-evolving cyber landscape.
Yeah, it's like we're building a global cyber defense force, right?
Yeah.
Sharing intel, coordinating strategies, and
Right.
trying to stay one step ahead of the bad guys.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of staying ahead,
Yeah.
our AI analysts have flagged another critical trend: the rise of something called crime as a service on the dark web.
Crime as a service. Okay, that sounds ominous. What exactly does that mean?
Well, imagine an online marketplace where criminals can buy and sell hacking tools.
Oh, wow.
Malware, stolen data, and even AI-powered cyber weapons. That's essentially what we're seeing on the dark web.
So even if you're not a tech whiz,
Yeah.
you can just go online and purchase the tools to launch a cyber attack.
It's unfortunately that easy. We're seeing prepackaged ransomware kits, phishing templates,
Wow.
and even AI-powered tools for creating deepfakes. It's like a one-stop shop for cybercrime.
That's disturbing.
Yeah.
It makes cybercrime accessible to anyone with an internet connection and a few bitcoins to spare.
Exactly, and it's making it much harder to track down the perpetrators.
Yeah, how... So...
Well, these crime-as-a-service platforms often operate anonymously.
Yeah.
They use cryptocurrency for payments and encrypted communication channels to hide their tracks.
Oh, so it's like a shadowy underworld where cybercriminals can operate with impunity.
That's a good way to put it. And it's a major challenge for law enforcement agencies around the world.
Okay, so crime as a service is making it easier for criminals to launch attacks.
Right.
And harder for law enforcement to catch them. What can we even do to combat this trend?
Well, one approach is to disrupt these online marketplaces.
Okay.
Law enforcement agencies are working to infiltrate these platforms, identify the operators, and take them down.
So it's like a digital version of a drug bust.
Yes.
Shutting down the source of the illicit goods.
Exactly. Another approach is to focus on prevention.
Okay.
This involves educating individuals and organizations about the dangers of the dark web, warning them about the risks of purchasing these tools, and encouraging them to report any suspicious activity.
So it's about raising awareness and empowering people to be more vigilant.
Exactly. And it's also about working with technology companies to develop better tools for detecting and blocking access to these dark web marketplaces.
Okay, so disrupting the marketplaces, educating users, and developing new technologies are all part of the solution.
Right.
Now, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, the widening cybersecurity gap.
Yeah.
The reports paint a pretty grim picture
They do.
of the risks faced by organizations that are unprepared for these evolving threats.
It's a serious concern. The World Economic Forum report highlights a number of factors that are contributing to this growing gap, including a shortage of skilled cybersecurity professionals, limited resources, and a lack of awareness about the risks.
So it's a combination of technical, financial, and human factors.
Precisely. Smaller organizations often lack the budget to invest in sophisticated security technologies or hire dedicated cybersecurity staff.
Right.
And even larger organizations may struggle to keep up with the rapid pace of technological change and the evolving threat landscape.
And then there's the human element.
Yeah.
People make mistakes, fall for scams,
Right.
and sometimes just don't prioritize security.
You're right. Human error is a major factor in many cyber attacks.
Yeah.
And even the most sophisticated security technologies can be rendered useless if people aren't following proper security protocols.
So what can organizations do to bridge this cybersecurity gap?
Well, the reports offer a number of recommendations,
Okay.
including investing in cybersecurity awareness training,
Why?
implementing basic security hygiene practices, and adopting a risk-based approach to security.
Okay, let's break those down. Cybersecurity awareness training, that's about educating employees about the risks and how to protect themselves, right?
Exactly. It's about teaching people how to spot phishing emails, create strong passwords, and handle sensitive data responsibly.
And basic security hygiene practices, what are some examples of that?
Things like keeping software up to date, using multi-factor authentication, and encrypting sensitive data. These are simple but effective measures that can significantly reduce the risk of a cyber attack.
Okay, and what about a risk-based approach to security?
This involves identifying the most valuable assets and systems,
Okay.
assessing the potential threats and vulnerabilities, and then prioritizing security investments accordingly. It's about focusing resources where they will have the greatest impact.
So it's not about trying to protect everything equally.
Right.
It's about understanding your unique risks and tailoring your security measures accordingly.
Exactly. And it's also about recognizing that cybersecurity is an ongoing process,
Okay.
not a one-time event.
So it's about constantly adapting, evolving, and staying one step ahead of the bad guys.
Now, shifting gears a bit,
Okay.
I want to talk about a region that's become a major focal point in the fight against cybercrime, Southeast Asia.
Okay, we left off part one on a bit of a cliffhanger.
We did.
What's going on in Southeast Asia that's so concerning?
The reports paint a complex picture with a mix of factors contributing to the region's vulnerability.
Yeah.
We're seeing weak law enforcement, political instability in some areas, and a high level of poverty, all of which create an environment where cybercrime can thrive.
It sounds like a perfect storm for cybercriminals.
Exactly. And what's particularly alarming is that these aren't just small-time scams anymore.
Really?
We're seeing large, organized criminal networks operating with a level of sophistication that rivals some nation-state actors.
So it's not just about individuals trying to make a quick buck.
Right.
It's about sophisticated criminal enterprises with the resources and expertise to launch large-scale attacks.
Precisely. And these groups are leveraging advanced technologies, including AI and cryptocurrency, to carry out their operations and launder their illicit gains.
Wow.
And what's even more alarming is that they're increasingly targeting victims outside the region,
Oh, really?
with a particular focus on wealthier individuals and organizations in the U.S. and Europe.
So this is not just a regional problem.
Right.
It's a global threat that requires a global response.
Absolutely. And that's why international cooperation is so crucial. Law enforcement agencies need to share information, coordinate investigations, and work together to dismantle these criminal networks.
One of the reports, published by the United States Institute of Peace,
Yeah.
goes into detail about how these criminal networks are evolving and adapting their tactics.
Interesting.
They're shifting away from simple scams and moving towards more complex and lucrative schemes,
Oh, wow. Like what?
like online gambling, money laundering, and even human trafficking.
That's a deeply disturbing trend.
It is.
And they're using online platforms,
Yeah.
social media, messaging apps, even dating sites
Wow.
to recruit victims, move money, and coordinate their activities.
It's like they're exploiting the interconnectedness of the digital world to their advantage.
Exactly. And it highlights the fact that cybercrime is not just about stealing data or money.
Right.
It's about exploiting vulnerable individuals and causing real-world harm.
The report also mentions that these criminal networks are often operating with the tacit approval or even active support of corrupt officials.
That's a major challenge. Corruption undermines the rule of law and creates a climate of impunity that allows these criminal networks to flourish. It also makes it incredibly difficult for law enforcement to investigate and prosecute these crimes.
So it's a complex web of criminal activity, corruption, and weak governance. It's a daunting challenge.
It is.
But the report does offer some recommendations for how to address this growing problem.
Good.
One of the key recommendations is for greater international cooperation.
Okay.
Law enforcement agencies need to share information,
Right.
coordinate investigations, and work together to dismantle these criminal networks.
Absolutely.
And that includes addressing the issue of corruption.
Yes.
It's essential to hold corrupt officials accountable and create a more transparent and accountable system of governance.
Absolutely. Another key recommendation is to invest in cyber capacity building in the region. This means training law enforcement officials, prosecutors, and judges on how to investigate and prosecute cybercrime. It also means educating the public about the risks of cybercrime and how to protect themselves online.
So it's a multifaceted approach that involves law enforcement, government reform, and public education.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that this is not just a problem for Southeast Asia to solve.
Right.
It's a global challenge that requires a global response.
Now, I want to turn our attention back to the role of AI in this cybercrime landscape.
Okay.
We've talked about how AI is being used by both the good guys and the bad guys.
Yes.
But one area that's particularly concerning is the use of AI to create deepfakes and other tools for social engineering attacks.
Deepfakes, as you know, are incredibly realistic but completely fabricated videos or audio recordings. That can make it appear as if someone is saying or doing something they never actually did.
And the technology has become so advanced that it's incredibly difficult to distinguish deepfakes from real content.
Exactly. And that's what makes them so dangerous.
Yeah, right.
Criminals are using deepfakes to create incredibly convincing phishing scams,
Oh, wow.
spread disinformation, and even blackmail individuals.
One of the reports from Europol mentions a case where a software company was tricked into transferring a large sum of money to a fraudulent account
Really?
after receiving a phone call from what they thought was their CEO.
Oh, no.
It turned out to be a deepfake audio recording.
That's a chilling example of how deepfakes can be used to bypass traditional security measures. And as AI technology continues to advance, we can expect to see even more sophisticated and convincing deepfakes emerge.
So what can we do to protect ourselves from these AI-powered attacks?
Yeah.
It feels like the technology is moving so quickly that it's hard to keep up.
It's a valid concern, but there are steps we can take. One important step is education.
Okay.
We need to raise awareness about deepfakes and other AI-powered attacks
Right.
so that people understand the threat and know how to identify potential scams.
So it's about being more skeptical of what we see and hear online and verifying information through multiple sources before taking any action.
Exactly. We also need to develop new technologies and tools to detect and counter these attacks. There's a lot of research being done in this area,
Yeah.
and we're starting to see some promising solutions emerge.
For example, some companies are developing software that can analyze videos and audio recordings for signs of manipulation,
Right.
helping to identify deepfakes.
That's right. And there's also work being done on developing new authentication methods that are more resistant to deepfake attacks.
So while the threat is real and growing, it's not insurmountable.
It's not.
We need to stay informed, adapt our security practices, and invest in new technologies to stay ahead of the curve.
Absolutely. And we need to work together as individuals, organizations, and governments to share information and collaborate on solutions.
This deep dive into the world of cybercrime has certainly been eye-opening. It's clear that we're facing a complex and rapidly evolving threat environment, but it's also encouraging to see the steps that governments, organizations, and individuals are taking to enhance their cyber resilience.
I agree. While the challenges are significant, so too is the collective effort to combat cybercrime. The key is to remain vigilant, adapt to new threats, and never stop learning.
Now, shifting gears one last time,
Okay.
let's talk about a topic that's been generating a lot of buzz lately: the role of cryptocurrency in cybercrime.
Cryptocurrencies have become a double-edged sword in the digital world.
How so?
While they offer potential benefits in terms of financial innovation and inclusion, they've also become a favorite tool for cybercriminals.
That's because cryptocurrency transactions are typically recorded on a decentralized ledger, known as a blockchain, which is not controlled by any single entity, right?
Exactly. This makes it much more difficult for law enforcement agencies to trace the flow of funds and identify the individuals behind criminal activities.
The reports we've analyzed highlight how criminals are using cryptocurrency to launder money, finance illegal activities, and even pay for ransomware attacks.
That's right. And it's not just limited to small-time criminals.
Right.
We're seeing large, sophisticated organizations, including some with ties to nation-states,
Wow.
using cryptocurrency to move vast sums of money across borders.
The Europol report mentions that Bitcoin is still the most commonly used cryptocurrency by criminals,
Yeah.
but they're also starting to adopt alternative coins, known as altcoins, which offer even greater anonymity.
That's right. Privacy coins, such as Monero and Zcash, are designed specifically to obscure transaction details, making them even more attractive to criminals looking to hide their activities.
So what can be done to counter the use of cryptocurrency by criminals? Is it even possible to regulate something that's designed to be decentralized and anonymous?
It's a complex challenge, but there are steps that can be taken to mitigate the risks. One important step is to increase regulation of cryptocurrency exchanges and other service providers.
So that means requiring them to comply with anti-money laundering, AML, and Know Your Customer KYC regulations,
Yes,
similar to what's required of traditional financial institutions.
exactly. By requiring exchanges to verify the identities of their customers and report suspicious activity, law enforcement agencies will have a better chance of tracking down criminals who are using cryptocurrency for illicit purposes.
The reports also highlight the importance of international cooperation in combating the criminal use of cryptocurrency.
That's right. Cryptocurrency transactions can cross borders in an instant, so it's essential for law enforcement agencies around the world to share information and coordinate their efforts.
Another key aspect is educating the public about the risks of using cryptocurrency for illegal activities.
Right. Many people are drawn to cryptocurrency because of its perceived anonymity, but they may not be aware of the legal implications of using it for illicit purposes.
It's important for people to understand that even though cryptocurrency transactions can be difficult to trace, they're not completely anonymous. Law enforcement agencies are developing new tools and techniques to investigate these crimes, and there's always a digital trail that can be followed.
Exactly. And the penalties for engaging in criminal activity using cryptocurrency can be severe.
This has been an incredible deep dive into the complex world of cybercrime.
It really has.
It's clear that we're facing a rapidly evolving threat landscape,
Yes.
but it's also encouraging to see the steps being taken to enhance our collective cyber resilience.
Absolutely. While the challenges are significant, so too are the opportunities. By embracing innovation, collaborating with others, and never stopping learning, we can shape a future where technology empowers us, not endangers us.
Well said. Now, in our final segment,
Yeah.
I want to turn our attention to the human element in cybersecurity.
All right.
We've touched on this throughout our discussion,
Yeah.
but I think it's worth exploring in more detail.
I agree. Ultimately, it's people who make decisions, design systems, and implement security measures.
Right.
And it's people who are most impacted by cyber attacks.
So understanding the human factors that contribute to cybercrime, as well as the human impact of these crimes,
Yeah,
is essential for building a more resilient digital world.
precisely. And that's what we'll delve into after the break. Stay tuned.
All right. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring this cybercrime landscape, with the help of our AI analysts,
Right.
uncovering some alarming trends, but also some hopeful signs of resistance.
Yeah, definitely a mixed bag.
Yeah, it is.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the rise of AI-powered cybercrime to the emergence of crime-as-a-service platforms on the dark web.
Yeah.
We've explored the widening cybersecurity gap, the challenges in Southeast Asia, the threat of deepfakes, and the role of cryptocurrency in illicit activities.
It's been a whirlwind tour of the digital battlefield. But you know what's really struck me?
What's that?
Amid all this talk of technology and criminal networks,
Yeah.
the human element just keeps coming up.
You're right. We ended part 2 talking about how crucial the human element is, both in understanding why cybercrime happens and in mitigating the harm it causes.
Yeah, like I remember that old saying, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link.
Mm-hmm.
And in the world of cybersecurity, that weakest link is often us humans.
You're absolutely right. Whether it's clicking on a phishing link or using a weak password or falling for a social engineering scam,
Right.
human error plays a significant role in many cyber attacks.
It's almost like we're our own worst enemies sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it feels that way.
But the reports we've been analyzing, they don't just focus on human error.
Right.
They also highlight the human impact of cybercrime, which can be devastating.
Absolutely. We often think of cybercrime in terms of financial losses, data breaches, and system disruptions,
Yeah.
but it's important to remember that behind every cyber attack, there are real people whose lives are affected.
We're talking about individuals who lose their life savings to online scams, businesses forced to shut down due to ransomware attacks,
Right.
and even victims of online harassment and identity theft.
Exactly. The human cost of cybercrime is immense, and it's something we need to take seriously.
So if we're going to build a truly resilient digital world,
Yeah.
we need to address both sides of this human element. The human vulnerabilities that make cybercrime possible and the human impact of these crimes.
I completely agree. And that requires a multifaceted approach that goes beyond traditional security measures.
Okay, so what are some of the key strategies for addressing the human element in cybersecurity?
Well, one critical area is education.
Okay.
We need to empower individuals with the knowledge and skills they need to protect themselves online. This includes teaching people how to spot phishing emails, create strong passwords, and avoid social engineering scams.
It's about giving people the tools and the confidence to navigate the digital world safely and responsibly.
Exactly. And this education needs to start early. We need to be teaching children about online safety and digital citizenship, just as we teach them about physical safety and responsible behavior in the real world.
It's about making cybersecurity a part of our everyday culture, not just something we think about when something goes wrong.
Another important strategy is building a strong security culture within organizations.
Okay, how do we do that?
Well, this means creating an environment where employees understand the importance of cybersecurity,
Okay.
feel comfortable reporting potential threats, and are empowered to take ownership of their online safety.
It's about moving beyond the it's IT's problem mentality and recognizing that everyone has a role to play in cybersecurity.
Exactly. And this requires strong leadership from the top.
Yeah.
Executives need to set the tone, allocate resources, and champion cybersecurity initiatives throughout the organization.
And I want to touch on a specific aspect of the human element that's been getting a lot of attention lately, the role of psychology in cybercrime.
This is a fascinating area of research.
It is.
Criminals are increasingly using psychological tactics to manipulate people into taking actions that compromise their security.
You're talking about social engineering, right? Tricking people into clicking on malicious links, revealing sensitive information, or granting access to their devices.
Exactly. Social engineering attacks often exploit human emotions like fear,
Right.
greed, or a desire to be helpful. They prey on our vulnerabilities and our natural instincts.
So understanding these psychological tactics is crucial for developing effective defenses.
Absolutely. And it's not just about preventing attacks. It's
Okay.
also about understanding how to respond to incidents in a way that minimizes the psychological impact on victims.
For example, if someone falls for a phishing scam and loses their life savings,
Yeah,
they may feel ashamed, embarrassed, or even traumatized.
that's right. And it's important to approach these situations with empathy and understanding.
Yeah.
We need to provide victims with support and resources to help them recover and rebuild their trust.
So it's not just about technology and systems. It's about treating people with compassion and recognizing the human cost of cybercrime.
Well said. And this brings us to another important point. The need for collaboration in addressing the human element in cybersecurity.
Okay, we've talked about collaboration throughout this whole deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
But how does it apply specifically to the human element?
Well, it's about sharing information, best practices, and resources to help individuals and organizations build their resilience.
Okay.
Governments, businesses, and nonprofit organizations all have a role to play in this effort.
For example, governments can develop public awareness campaigns. Businesses can invest in employee training.
Yeah.
And nonprofits can provide support and resources for victims of cybercrime.
Exactly. We need a collective effort to create a safer and more secure digital world for everyone.
This AI-powered cybersecurity briefing has been an incredible journey.
It has.
We've explored the dark corners of the digital world, uncovered some alarming trends, and learned about the strategies and technologies being developed to combat these threats.
Right.
But most importantly, we've highlighted the crucial role that humans play in both perpetrating and mitigating cybercrime.
We have.
We've learned that while technology is a critical component of cybersecurity,
Yeah.
it's not the whole story. Ultimately, it's people who will determine the future of our digital world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we leave you with a challenge. What will you do to make the digital world a safer and more resilient place?
Will you be a force for good, using your knowledge and skills to protect others? Will you be an advocate for cybersecurity awareness and education?
The choices we make today will shape the digital landscape of tomorrow. Let's work together to create a future where technology empowers us, not endangers us.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of cybercrime. Stay safe, stay informed, and stay vigilant.